Day 31. And I'm still here, which means something went right, or I got lucky, or both, and honestly, I don't know which one scares me more. My name is Aaron Millbridge, and 37 days ago, I was the guy everyone rolled their eyes at during neighborhood barbecues. The prepper, the paranoid one. The dude with 72-hour bags and water filtration straws and a basement that looked like a small Costco had a baby with a military surplus store. My ex-wife Jennifer used to say I was preparing for a disaster that would never come. And she took half my stuff in the divorce and moved to Sacramento with that dentist whose name I still refuse to remember. Guess who's laughing now, Jennifer? Except, I'm not laughing because everything is completely fucked. And being right about the collapse of civilization doesn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. Let me back up. The news started getting weird around February 9th. I remember because it was my nephew's birthday, and my sister Angela called me crying, saying she couldn't find any acetaminophen for kids anywhere in the greater Portland metro area, which seemed strange, but not apocalyptic. Then the CDC put out this really careful statement about a respiratory illness in nursing homes across 8 states that was causing unusual neurological symptoms. They used the word concerning 3 times in 2 paragraphs, which, if you know anything about how government agencies communicate, is basically them screaming. I started buying extra canned goods that week. Just a few things every time I went to the grocery store so I wouldn't look crazy. Beans, soup, tuna, powdered milk, even though I hate the stuff. I already had my long-term storage food from various prepper suppliers, but that stuff tastes like cardboard fucked a salt lick, so I wanted real food too. By February 16th, 3 major hospitals in Atlanta had gone into complete lockdown. And there were these videos on social media that kept getting taken down, showing what looked like patients attacking staff, and the media was calling it a psychotic break caused by the illness. And everyone was saying, oh, it's just bath salts again, remember Miami? And I'm watching this footage thinking, no, this is different because bath salts don't spread to 20 people in the same ward overnight. I took a week of vacation time on February 20th. Told my boss at the insurance company that I needed to handle some family stuff, which wasn't technically a lie because preparing to survive the end of the world is family stuff if you think about it. I spent that whole week organizing my basement, checking expirations on my medical supplies, testing my water filters, going through my ammunition inventory. I had about 4,000 rounds for various firearms, which sounds like a lot until you consider that in a real collapse scenario, you're not exactly going to be able to run down to the sporting goods store for more. My neighbor Kyle saw me carrying in another case of bottled water and asked if I was expecting a hurricane in Oregon. And I just laughed it off and said, better safe than sorry. And he gave me this look like I was the weird one. Kyle's dead now, probably. I haven't seen him move past his kitchen window in 3 weeks, and there's a smell coming from his house that I recognize from when my childhood dog got hit by a car and we didn't find her body for 4 days. The government declared a national emergency on March 1st. By then, the illness had a name. Acute necrotic encephalopathy syndrome, or ANES, which the media immediately started calling the rage virus, because that's what sells, and never mind that it wasn't actually a virus, according to the extremely limited information anyone would share. It was spreading faster than anything I'd ever seen. The incubation period was like 12 to 18 hours. You got bit or scratched by someone infected, and within a day, you were one of them. I watched it all happen from my living room, glued to the news, watching cities fall one by one. New York went dark on March 3rd, Chicago on March 5th. Los Angeles held out until March 7th, but then it was chaos and fires, and the last broadcast from there showed the news anchor just getting up and walking off camera mid-sentence, and you could hear screaming in the background. My sister called me on March 8th. She was in Eugene with her kids, my nephew Tyler, who just turned 7, and my niece Emma, who was 4. Her husband Derek was stuck in Seattle on a business trip, and the phones were down, and she was terrified. I told her to come here. Drive straight through. Don't stop except for gas. Bring whatever she could carry. I gave her the code to my storage unit where I had extra supplies that wouldn't fit in my house. She never made it. I don't know what happened exactly. Her phone went dead around Olympia, and that was the last I heard. I drove north looking for her 2 days later when things got really bad, and I made it maybe 40 miles before I saw the highway was completely blocked with abandoned cars, and there were things moving between the vehicles, and I heard gunshots in the distance. And I turned around and came home because I'm a coward or a survivor or both. That's the thing that eats at me. I had all this stuff, all these preparations. I'd spent years and thousands of dollars getting ready for some kind of collapse. And when it actually happened, I couldn't save the people I cared about. My sister, her kids. They're gone, and I'm here in my 3-bedroom house in Beaverton with enough food to last 6 months and a water system that could support 4 people easily. And it's just me. Just fucking me. The actual collapse happened fast once it started. Schools closed on March 9th. Martial law was declared in most major cities by March 10th, but it didn't matter because there weren't enough soldiers or police or anyone to actually enforce it. By March 12th, the power grid started going down in sections. By March 15th, there was no more television. No more radio except for some emergency broadcasts that were clearly automated. By March 20th, it was silent. I'd spent the week before total collapse doing final preparations. I'd filled every container I had with water, the bathtub, storage bins, empty juice bottles, everything. I'd moved my most critical supplies to the basement where I'd set up my main living area. I'd reinforced my doors and windows with plywood and 2x4s, and I'd set up motion sensors around the perimeter of my property that would buzz on a receiver I kept on my belt. The house is a single-story ranch style with a full basement. Not huge, but solid construction from the 70s. I'm on a quiet street called Maple Ridge Drive, with houses spaced about 40 feet apart. Before everything happened, it was the kind of neighborhood where people put those little free library boxes in their yards and complained about the HOA regulations on fence heights. Now it's dead quiet, except for when it's not. And then it's screaming or groaning or the sound of windows breaking. My basement is maybe 800 square feet. I've got it divided into sections. Sleeping area with a cot and sleeping bag in one corner. Food storage along the north wall. Shelves filled with canned goods, rice, beans, pasta, oatmeal, protein bars, freeze-dried meals, flour, sugar, salt, cooking oil, powdered eggs, powdered milk. Water storage along the east wall. 55-gallon barrels, cases of bottled water, my filtration system, medical supplies and tools along the south wall, weapons and ammunition locked in a safe, a small camping stove with propane tanks for cooking, batteries, flashlights, radio equipment, books, a manual can opener because electric obviously doesn't work anymore. I've got 2 small windows at ground level that I've covered with plywood from the inside, but left small gaps so I can see out if I need to. There's a door that leads to the garage, which has access to the outside. Another door that leads to the main floor of the house, which I've barricaded from the basement side. The power went out for good on day 7. Man, I've been expecting it. I have a solar panel set up on the roof that charges a battery bank in the basement, which gives me limited electricity for essential stuff. LED lights, radio, charging batteries. I can't run anything major, but I don't need to. I've got a propane camping stove for cooking, and I'm being careful with it because propane won't last forever. Water is actually okay because I planned for this. I have rainwater collection barrels connected to my gutters and a good filtration system. The rain in Oregon is reliable, even if everything else isn't. I filter everything twice and use purification tablets on top of that. because getting dysentery in the zombie apocalypse seems like a stupid way to die after surviving this long. Food is going to be the long-term problem. I did the math. If I'm careful, I've got about 5 months of food at current rationing. I'm eating 1 real meal a day, plus a protein bar or some crackers. It's not enough calories for my size. I'm 6'2", and I was 190 before this started, and I can already feel my pants getting loose. But it's sustainable for now. I'm losing weight, but not starving. The first week was the hardest psychologically. I kept expecting someone to fix it. The government, the military, someone. I'd listen to my emergency radio for hours, hoping to hear a broadcast about safe zones or evacuation plans or anything. But there was nothing except automated warnings to stay indoors and avoid contact with infected individuals and conserve resources. I could hear my neighbors those first few days, screaming, fighting, car alarms going off, gunshots. So on day 3, I heard Kyle's wife Sharon yelling for help, and I almost went out there, but I didn't, because I didn't know if she was infected or if going out would just get me killed too. And I sat in my basement hating myself while she screamed, and eventually she stopped screaming. The infected don't think. That's the most important thing I've learned. They're not smart. They don't problem solve or plan or remember. They just react to stimuli. Sound, mostly. Movement. They're like biological robots programmed to bite and infect. I've watched them from my windows. They shuffle around aimlessly until something catches their attention, and then they move toward it. They can't open doors, can't climb, can't figure out how to get through a barrier. They just push against obstacles until either the obstacle breaks or they lose interest. But there's a lot of them. On day 9, I counted 43 infected on my street alone during a 4-hour observation period. Some were neighbors I recognized. Sharon from next door in her yoga pants and Seahawks t-shirt with half her face missing. The teenage kid from 3 houses down who used to mow lawns in the summer. The mailman still wearing his uniform. Others I didn't know. They'd wandered in from other areas following sounds or movement or who knows what. The smell was bad by day 12. Bodies rotting in houses and on lawns. The infected don't seem to decompose as fast as regular corpses for some reason. Something about the infection preserving the tissue, maybe. But the people who died without getting infected or who got killed some other way are just laying there, turning into soup. Whilst on hot days, the smell seeps into everything, even through my sealed basement, and I have to breathe through a cloth with peppermint oil on it. I've developed routines because routines keep you sane. I wake up when there's light coming through the window gaps. I check my perimeter sensors. I do a visual scan of what I can see outside. I eat a protein bar and drink water. I exercise, push-ups, sit-ups, stretches, because staying in shape might save my life later. I inventory my supplies and update my log. I read for a few hours. I listen to the radio even though there's never anything. I eat my main meal around what I estimate is 6 p.m. I read some more or maintain equipment. I sleep. Sometimes I break routine, and that's when the bad thoughts come. I think about my sister a lot, about Tyler and Emma. Tyler was obsessed with dinosaurs and could name every species and their time periods. Emma was just starting to talk in full sentences, and she called me Unca Air because she couldn't say Aaron yet. I wonder if they suffered. I wonder if it was fast. I wonder if Angela had time to think of me before the end, or if she was too busy trying to protect her kids. I think about Jennifer too, even though we've been divorced for 3 years. She was the one who asked for it. Said I was too focused on worst-case scenarios and not focused enough on actually living life. She wanted to travel and go to restaurants and enjoy things, and I was too busy calculating the probability of various collapse scenarios. She wasn't wrong exactly. I was obsessed, was But I was also right, and now she's probably dead in Sacramento, and I'm alive in my basement, and being right doesn't make me feel any better. Day 15. I made my first mistake. I got careless checking the perimeter. I opened the garage door, just cracked it about 6 inches to look out. And I didn't see the infected on the side of the garage. It was one of the Johnsons from across the street. Mr. Johnson, who used to complain about my lawn being half an inch too tall. He lunged at the gap and got his arm through, and I slammed the door on it, and he didn't even react to what should have been incredible pain. He just kept pushing and grabbing, and I had to get a hatchet and chop at his arm until it severed. And even then the arm kept twitching on my garage floor while he pushed against the door with his stump leaking black, infected blood. I burned the arm in my fire pit outside that night and scrubbed the garage floor with bleach 3 times. And I still feel like the infection is in there, somehow waiting. That's when I realized I needed to be smarter about observation. I set up a small mirror system at the window gaps so I can see different angles without exposing myself. I created specific protocols for any time I need to open a door or move between areas of the house. Check, double check, move slow, stay quiet. Assume there's an infected nearby because there probably is. The nights are the worst. It's completely dark without power. I use my LED lantern on the lowest setting because I need to conserve batteries, but it barely lights the basement. Shadows everywhere, and the sounds outside. The infected don't sleep. They just wander. I'll hear them bumping into cars or scraping against houses or making those awful gurgling moans. Sometimes they congregate for no reason I can figure out. I'll hear 10 or 15 of them shuffling around in the street, and I have no idea what attracted them. On day 18, I heard a dog barking. A real dog. Alive. It went on for maybe 20 minutes, and I wanted to help it, but I couldn't, and then eventually the barking turned to yelping, turned to silence. The infected kill animals too if they can catch them. On day 22, I saw my first survivor who wasn't me. It was early morning, and I was doing my visual check through the mirror system, and I saw someone running down the street. A woman. Young, maybe mid-20s. She had a backpack, and she was moving fast, looking behind her. There were 3 infected chasing her, but she was faster. She was heading east toward the main commercial area. I almost called out, almost opened the door. But I didn't because what if she was infected and just hadn't turned yet? What if she led more infected back to my location? What if she was desperate enough to try to take my supplies? I watched her run past and disappear around the corner, and I felt like a coward again. But I stayed quiet. I don't know if she made it. Day 25. I had to go upstairs to get something I'd forgotten. I'd been avoiding the main floor because it felt exposed, but I needed the spare can opener from the kitchen because my primary one was getting dull. I unsealed the basement door as quietly as possible and crept up. The house was exactly how I'd left it 3 weeks earlier. Dishes in the sink, mail on the counter. Then everything normal, except it wasn't normal because the world had ended. The windows were covered, but some light got through the gaps, and I could see shadows moving outside. I got the can opener and a few other things I'd forgotten about. Medications from the bathroom cabinet, some books, a warmer jacket. And I was heading back to the basement door when I heard it. Scratching. At the back door. Not aggressive. Not pounding. Just this persistent scratch, 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 like something was trying to figure out how to get in. I froze. The back door is solid wood with a deadbolt, and I'd reinforced it with a 2x4 barricade, but still. I stood there listening. The scratching continued. Then stopped. Then started again at a different spot. Then the window next to the door. Then silence. I waited 5 full minutes before I moved. And when I did, I moved fast back to the basement and sealed the door and sat on my cot, shaking, because that's when it really hit me that this house isn't safe. It's just safer, and there's a difference. Day 28. I tried the radio frequencies again. I have a ham radio set up with decent range. I've been scanning and listening since the beginning, but there's been nothing except static and occasionally some weird interference that sounds almost like Morse code, but isn't anything I recognize. On day 28, I decided to try transmitting. This is Aaron Millbridge in Beaverton, Oregon. If anyone can hear this, I'm alive and have supplies, and am looking for information about safe zones or other survivors. Please respond. I transmitted that every hour for 6 hours. Now, nothing came back except on the last transmission, I heard something. Not words. Just this burst of sound that might have been a voice or might have been interference. I tried calling back but got nothing. Haven't transmitted since because I don't know who might be listening. Infected can't use radios, but survivors can, and not all survivors are necessarily people I want to meet. Day 30, I ran into a problem with the water filtration. One of the filters was clogged and my spare was damaged. I must have stored it wrong and the seal broke. I had to make a choice. Use unfiltered rainwater with just purification tablets or ration my bottled water even more strictly. I decided on a combination. Filtered water for drinking. Tablets only water for cooking and washing. It'll work, but it's not ideal. And if I get sick from bad water, I'm completely screwed. That's the thing about survival. It's not one big dramatic moment. It's 1,000 small decisions that all have to be right, and if you fuck up enough of them, you die. Day 31. Today. Now. I'm sitting here in my basement, writing this in a notebook by LED lantern, because I need to maintain some record of what's happening. If I die, someone might find this and know that I tried, that I survived for a while, that it mattered. The situation is stable but fragile. I have food for about 4 more months at current consumption. Water is okay as long as the rain keeps coming and my collection system doesn't fail. I'm healthy apart from losing weight and some vitamin deficiencies probably. The house is secure for now. The infected seem to be spreading out more. I'm seeing fewer on my street, which might mean they're wandering to areas with more stimuli. But I can't stay here forever. Eventually the food runs out. Eventually something breaks that I can't fix. Eventually I have to make a choice about what comes next. I've been thinking about that. About options. Option 1. Stay here as long as possible. Hunker down. Wait for rescue that might never come. Starve slowly or die when something eventually gets through my defenses. Option 2. Try to find other survivors. Maybe that woman I saw. Maybe someone broadcasting on frequencies I haven't checked. Pool resources. Strength in numbers. But that means leaving security and trusting people I don't know, and humans can be worse than infected sometimes. Option 3. Try to get to a more sustainable location. Somewhere rural with land I could farm, fresh water, maybe the coast where I could fish. But that means traveling through infected territory with limited supplies and no guarantee I'd find anywhere better. Option 4. Give up. I have a gun. It would be fast. But I'm not there yet. Might never be. Survival instinct is strong even when you're not sure what you're surviving for. I'm leaning toward option 2 or 3, but I need more information first. I need to scout. Figure out what's actually out there beyond my limited view from the basement. Which brings me to tomorrow's plan. I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to leave the house. Not far. Just to the neighbor's house across the street. The Hendersons. They were older, retired. I'm pretty sure they're dead because I haven't seen movement there in weeks. But they had a garden and some chickens, and maybe there's something useful left. Supplies, food, information. I've been planning it for 3 days. I have a route mapped. Early morning when there's light but infected seem less active. Out the garage door. Across the lawn. 15 feet of exposed street. Up their driveway. Check the side door to the garage first. If it's clear, get inside. If not, abort and come back. I'll carry my Glock 19 with a suppressor and extra magazines. My hatchet for close quarters, a backpack for anything I find. I'll move slow and quiet. I'll check every angle. I'll abort at the first sign of trouble. It's risky, but staying static is risky too, just in a different way. So that's tomorrow. Day 32. My first supply run. I'm scared shitless, but I'm also weirdly excited because at least it's action. At least it's something other than sitting in this basement counting canned goods and listening to static. I should try to sleep now. Need to be sharp tomorrow. But I know I won't sleep much. I never do before something dangerous. If this is my last entry, then I guess you know how it went. If there's another entry, then I survived again. Here's hoping. Day 32, and I'm back, and I'm alive. And everything hurts, and I found something I really wish I hadn't. Started early like I planned. 400 by my watch. Still dark, but I wanted to be in position when light came. I geared up slow and careful. Checked my weapons. Loaded the backpack with empties for supplies, lighter going out, heavier coming back. Put on my darkest clothes. Moved through the garage to the door. Stopped. Listened. 5 full minutes. The street sounded quiet. No moaning, no shuffling. Just early morning silence and some birds, which was weird because I hadn't heard birds in a while. Maybe they're adapting. Maybe infected don't bother with things they can't catch. I cracked the garage door. Checked with my mirror first. Nothing visible in the immediate area. Opened it wider. The morning air hit me, and Christ, I'd forgotten what outside smelled like. Death and rot and smoke from fires that burned out weeks ago. Underneath that, something organic and wrong. My lawn was overgrown. Weeds everywhere. There was a body on the sidewalk about 20 feet to the right that I'd seen through the windows before, Mrs. Patterson from 4 houses down. She'd been there since week 1, and the birds and weather had reduced her to mostly bones and clothing. I stepped out. My heart was slamming so hard I thought it would give me away. Every shadow looked like it was moving. I kept my Glock up and scanned constantly. The Hendersons' house was across the street and 2 doors to the left. Single story, beige siding, dead garden visible in the front yard with the fence posts tilted at wrong angles. I moved along my garage wall to the driveway edge, and that's when I saw the first infected. It was in the middle of the street about 40 feet away, facing the other direction. Male, shirtless. Something had torn chunks out of its back and arms. It was swaying slightly like it was sleeping standing up. I froze, waited. It didn't turn. Crossing the street was the worst part. Completely exposed. I went fast but quiet, and the whole time I expected the thing to hear me or turn around, but it didn't. I made it to the other side and pressed against the nearest car, a Honda Civic with dried blood on the driver's window, and breathed. The Henderson house was 15 feet away. I could see the side door to the garage hanging partially open. That was bad. Open meant either someone had left it that way or something had gotten in. But I'd come this far. I approached low and slow. The door was definitely open about 6 inches, no movement visible inside. I pushed it wider with the Glock barrel, and the hinges creaked, and I froze again, but nothing reacted. The garage was dark. I had a flashlight on my belt, but using it felt dangerous. I let my eyes adjust. Shapes resolved. A workbench, some tools, shelves with paint cans and boxes, a lawnmower. No infected. There was a door from the garage to the house. It was closed. I tried the handle and it turned, and that's when I smelled it. Death. Not the outside death smell. This was concentrated, freshish. Something had died inside recently. I almost turned back right then. But I'd already come this far, and I needed to know what was in there, and maybe they had supplies I could use. I opened the door slowly. The smell got worse. I pulled my shirt up over my nose and mouth and stepped into what looked like a kitchen. Dark. Windows covered with blankets. I used my flashlight finally because I couldn't see anything. The beam showed an overturned table, chairs scattered, broken dishes, blood on the floor in spray patterns, drag marks leading toward the hallway. I followed them because I'm an idiot. When the hallway had family photos on the walls, the Hendersons at the Grand Canyon, their kids at graduation, normal life frozen in frames while the world ended. The smell was coming from the bedroom at the end of the hall. The door was open. I really didn't want to look, but I did. They were both in there. Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, on the bed. Mr. Henderson had been shot in the head. Mrs. Henderson next to him had been shot in the chest and head. There was a revolver on the floor next to the bed. Murder-suicide. He'd done her first, then himself. Probably right at the beginning when they realized what was happening. Quick and clean and together. I stood there looking at them for longer than I should have. They'd been married 46 years, according to a card on the dresser. Anniversary card. Like to my darling wife, 46 years and counting. Not counting anymore. I checked the rest of the house, forcing myself to be practical. Found some canned goods in the pantry, about 20 cans of soup and vegetables. Some crackers that hadn't gone stale yet. A case of bottled water. Medical supplies in the bathroom, including antibiotics, which are worth their weight in gold now. A battery-powered radio. Batteries. A hand-crank flashlight. Some tools. I loaded my backpack, being selective, took what I could carry and what was most useful. I avoided looking at the bedroom again on my way out. The garage exit was where it got bad. I was almost to the door when I heard it. Movement outside. Multiple sources. That shuffling, scraping sound of infected moving. I killed my flashlight and went to the small garage window. Looked out carefully. There were 8 of them in the street. They'd congregated around something I couldn't see. Maybe a dead animal. Maybe nothing. Infected do that sometimes. Just cluster together for no reason, I understand. They were between me and my house. I had 2 choices. Wait them out or try to sneak past. Waiting felt safer, but I had no idea how long they'd stay there. Could be minutes, could be hours. And every minute I was away from my secure location was a minute something could go wrong. I decided to try the backyard route. Loop around behind the Henderson house, cut through a few yards, approach my place from a different angle. Longer, but maybe safer than crossing directly. I went out the back door of the house into their yard. The garden I'd seen from the front extended back here. Tomato cages rusted and overgrown. A chicken coop with the door hanging open and feathers scattered everywhere and blood dried on the ground. Whatever chickens they'd had were long gone. The back fence was chain link about 4 feet high. I could see into the next yard over. The Crafts. Their house was dark and looked undisturbed. I climbed the fence carefully. My backpack caught on the top and made a rattling noise, and I froze, but nothing came. I dropped into the craft yard and moved along their garage toward the next fence. That's when I heard something that made my blood stop. A voice. Human. Female. Coming from inside the craft house. Please, please, someone. I know you're out there. Please help me. I should have kept moving. Should have ignored it. But I couldn't, because what if it was real? What if someone was alive in there? And I approached the back door of the house. It was closed, but I could hear the voice more clearly now. I'm hurt. I can't move. Please. I've been here for days. Please. It was coming from inside. Maybe the living room based on the direction. I tried the back door. Unlocked. That should have been my first warning. I opened it and stepped into a kitchen that looked normal, except for the smell. Not death. Something else. Something chemical and wrong. The voice called again. Hello? Is someone there? Please help me. I'm in the front room. I moved through the kitchen to the hallway. The front room was to the left. The voice was definitely coming from there. Please, I can see your shadow. Please don't leave me. I stepped into the doorway with my Glock up, and what I saw didn't make sense at first. Where there was an infected in the middle of the room. Female, young. Maybe the craft's daughter who I'd seen around sometimes. She was tangled in what looked like a Halloween decoration. Fake cobweb material wrapped around her legs and torso. She was stuck, struggling against it slowly and making that voice. Please help me. I'm hurt. But it wasn't her speaking. The voice was coming from a laptop on the coffee table playing on a loop. Some kind of recording. Some kind of trap. I understood then. Someone had set this up. Used the voice as bait. Trapped and infected in the middle of the room. Why? To see what would happen? To test something? To fuck with other survivors? The infected saw me and lunged, but the webbing held. It made that awful gurgling moan and thrashed. I backed away, and that's when I heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy. Human. Coming down. I ran. Back through the kitchen, out the back door, across the yard. Didn't look back. Got over the fence into the next yard and the next one, and I could hear shouting behind me, but not words, just noise. And I kept moving until I was 3 houses down, and then I cut left toward the street. The cluster of infected from before were gone. Street was clear. I sprinted across to my house, got the garage door up and inside and down and sealed, and I stood there shaking, trying to process what the fuck I'd just seen. Someone is alive in that house. Someone set a trap using a recording and a trapped infected. Someone who shouted when they saw me but didn't follow. Why? What are they doing? Are they dangerous? I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I'm not going back that direction. I spent the rest of the day organizing the supplies I'd grabbed. 23 cans of food, case of water, the antibiotics, amoxicillin and ciprofloxacin, batteries, some basic tools. Not a huge haul, but enough to extend my timeline by maybe 2 weeks. I keep thinking about the Hendersons, how they chose to go out together on their own terms. There's something almost peaceful about that. They didn't suffer, didn't turn, didn't spend their last moments alone and terrified. And I keep thinking about whoever is in the craft house. What kind of person sets up something like that? What are they testing? Are there others? The world I thought I understood, infected bad, survivors good, is more complicated than that. I'm not going out again for a while, maybe a week, maybe more. I need to think about what this means. I need to plan better. I need to figure out if that person in the craft house is going to be a problem. For now, I'm back in my basement with my supplies and my routine, and I'm telling myself I'm safe, even though I don't really believe it anymore. Day 32 complete. Still alive. Still scared. Still don't know what I'm doing. Day 37, and the nightmares are getting worse. I keep dreaming about Mrs. Henderson's face, about Emma calling for me, about that recording playing on loop, "Please help me," while an infected thing thrashes in fake cobwebs. I wake up disoriented and sweating, and it takes me a few seconds to remember where I am. The supplies from the Henderson house have been integrated into my storage. I've been eating slightly better, 1.5 meals instead of 1, to try to maintain my weight and strength. The antibiotics are stored in my medical kit. I tested the battery radio and got nothing but static on all frequencies. I haven't seen movement from the craft house. Whoever was there either left or is staying hidden. I watch from my mirror system sometimes, but I don't see anything. Maybe they're watching me too. Maybe they know exactly where I am. That thought keeps me up at night. I've been doing inventory obsessively because it gives me something to focus on besides the fear. Current status: food, approximately 3 months and 3 weeks at current consumption. Water, indefinite as long as rain collection works and filters hold. Ammunition: 3,847 rounds across 4 calibers. Medical supplies, good stock including the new antibiotics. Fuel, propane for cooking will last maybe 2 more months. Batteries, decent supply but finite. Other tools, clothes, hygiene items, various survival gear. The math is clear. I can survive in this house for another 3 to 4 months maximum. Then I'll need to either find more food or move to a location where I can produce food. I've been thinking about that. About what happens next. There's a sporting goods store about 2 miles from here. Big place. They'd have freeze-dried camping food, water filters, outdoor gear, maybe weapons. Probably been looted, but maybe not completely. It's a risk, but it could extend my timeline significantly. There's also a library nearby. I know that sounds stupid, but books on farming, water purification, a medical treatment. That knowledge could be crucial long-term. And libraries are usually quiet places. Not much reason for infected to congregate there. Further out there's farmland, rural areas where I might find abandoned houses with wells and gardens, and fewer infected. But that's a major expedition. Days of travel through unknown territory. I'd need more supplies before attempting that. I've also been thinking about trying the radio again. Broadcasting. Maybe whoever was in the craft house has a radio. Maybe there are other survivors in range who aren't psychotic. But broadcasting means revealing my location to anyone listening. Could bring help, could bring trouble. Decisions. Always decisions. And no way to know if they're right until after you make them. Day 38. I saw something that changed my calculations. I was doing my morning observation routine when I noticed movement on the street. Not infected shuffling. Deliberate movement. I adjusted my mirror and saw a figure moving from house to house, staying low and fast. Human. Male from the build. He had a rifle and a backpack, and he was checking cars. I watched him work his way down the street. He'd approach a vehicle, look inside, move on. Sometimes he'd open a door and search the interior. He was methodical. Professional even. Like he'd done this before. He got closer to my position, 3 houses away, 2 houses, next door at Kyle's place. I had my Glock in hand, safety off, watching. He checked Kyle's car in the driveway, found something in the trunk, looked like a toolbox maybe, put it in his pack. Then he looked at my house. I could see him studying it. The reinforced windows, with the sealed doors. He knew someone was inside, or had been recently. He approached my garage door, stood there for a minute. I had my gun aimed at the door through the wall, and I was ready to fire if he tried to get in. But he didn't. He knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, Then he spoke loud enough for me to hear. "I know you're in there. I'm not infected, not looking for trouble. Just checking the area. If you need anything or want to talk, I'm staying at the elementary school gymnasium 3 blocks west. Name's Jack, former firefighter. There's a few of us there. You're welcome to come by." He waited for maybe 30 seconds. I didn't respond. Didn't move. Barely breathed. He knocked again. "All right. Well, offer stands. We're at the school. We have power, clean water, security. Think about it." Then he left. Continued down the street checking more cars and houses. I watched until he disappeared around the corner. A group at the elementary school. Power and water. Security. It could be legitimate. It could also be a trap. Use the promise of safety to lure people in, and then what? Rob them? Worse? But what if it's real? What if there's an actual community forming? Safety in numbers. Division of labor. Shared resources. That's how humans survived for thousands of years. I spent the whole day thinking about it. Running scenarios, weighing risks. Risk of going, it's a trap. They take my supplies and kill me. Or it's not a trap, but there's infected in the area and I get caught in the open. Or they're desperate and violent, even if not intentionally malicious. Risk of not going, I stay isolated. Run out of supplies eventually. Miss the chance to join something that might actually work. The smart play is probably to scout it first. Get close. Observe without making contact. See if this Jack guy is telling the truth. See how many people are there. See if they seem organized or desperate. But scouting means another trip outside. Another risk. And I'm still recovering psychologically from last time. I decided to give it a few days. Watch my street. See if Jack comes back. See if there are signs of activity from the school direction. Gather information before making a choice. Day 39. Nothing happened. Quiet. I saw a few infected wandering in the afternoon, but they moved past without stopping. Day 40, I heard gunshots. Multiple shots from the west where the school would be. Could be them dealing with infected. Could be trouble. Could be unrelated. No way to know without getting closer. Day 41. I made a decision. I'm going to scout the school tomorrow. Not to make contact, just to observe. I need to know if there's a real community there or if Jack was lying or delusional. I need to know what my options are. I spent the day preparing, checked all my gear, made sure my weapons were clean and loaded, planned my route, filled a small pack with emergency supplies in case I can't get back to the house for some reason. I'm trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong, trying to focus on the practical steps. Check the route, move quietly, stay hidden, observe from a distance, return home. Simple. Except nothing is simple anymore. I should sleep, but I know I won't. Too much adrenaline, too much anxiety. My mind keeps running scenarios. What I'll see. What could happen. What I'll do if things go bad. The house feels both safe and suffocating right now. I've been inside for 41 days straight, except for that one supply run. The walls are closing in. My basement is secure, but it's also a prison. Maybe that's why I'm really doing this. Not for information, not for supplies. Just because I need to move. Need to see something other than these same 800 square feet. Need to feel like I'm doing something other than waiting to die slowly. Tomorrow, day 42. Scout the school. See what's there. Make a real decision about what comes next, instead of just existing day by day. I'm scared, but I'm also ready. Here goes nothing. Day 42, and everything I thought I knew is wrong. I left at first light. Same prep as before. Glock, hatchet, pack with basics. Nah, but this time I brought binoculars too. My plan was to get to a vantage point where I could see the school without being exposed. The elementary school is 3 blocks west on Farmington Road. I know the area. There's a 2-story office building across from the school with a good view. If I could get to the roof, I could observe without being seen. I took a different route than last time. Went through backyards heading north first, then cut west. Slower, but less exposed than using the streets. Every fence I had to climb, every yard I crossed, every corner I rounded. My heart was in my throat. Saw 6 infected on the way. Avoided all of them by moving slow and staying downwind. They really do rely on sound and smell more than sight. One of them was maybe 10 feet away from me at one point. But I was frozen behind a truck, and it just shuffled past, making those wet breathing sounds. It took me almost 2 hours to go 3 blocks. By the time I reached the office building, I was exhausted from the stress. The building was unlocked. Glass door had been broken at some point. I went in carefully. The lobby was trashed, furniture overturned, papers everywhere, blood on the walls. Something bad had happened here in the early days. I found the stairs and went up to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor was offices, cubicles and conference rooms, windows facing Farmington Road and the school beyond. Perfect. I approached a window carefully and looked out. The elementary school was across the street, maybe 200 yards away. Single-story sprawl with a playground and fields around it. The playground equipment looked surreal. Bright primary colors in this dead world. Slides and swings and nothing moving. But there was activity at the school itself. The gymnasium was on the north side of the building. I could see solar panels on the roof. There was a fence around the perimeter that hadn't been there before. Looked like chain link, maybe 8 feet high with barbed wire on top. Professionally installed, or at least competently done. I used my binoculars to get a closer look. There were people, actual living people. I counted 5 visible, but there were probably more inside. They were doing various tasks. One was on the roof, adjusting the solar panels. 2 were working on the fence line doing repairs. 1 was standing watch at the main entrance with a rifle. One was tending to what looked like a garden in the field area. They looked organized, clean even, not desperate or starving. They had a system. I watched for 3 hours, saw more people come and go, counted at least 12 total, saw them rotate watch positions, saw them bring in water containers from somewhere, saw them cooking something on a grill outside. The smell of food made my stomach hurt. It looked legitimate. It looked like they were actually building something sustainable. But I also saw something else. Around midday, a vehicle approached from the south. A pickup truck moving slowly. It stopped near the fence and someone got out. Conversation happened that I couldn't hear. Then the gate opened and the truck drove in. That bothered me. They had vehicles. They had fuel. They were mobile. Like if things went bad here, they could leave. Could relocate. They weren't trapped like I was. I was so focused on the school that I almost didn't hear it. Footsteps behind me. I spun around with my Glock up, and there was a kid standing in the doorway of the office. An actual kid. Maybe 12 years old. Boy, skinny, dirty, holding a baseball bat. We stared at each other for about 5 seconds that felt like an hour. He spoke first. "You're not one of them." Statement, not question. "No. You?" "Obviously." He lowered the bat slightly. "You watching the school?" "Just looking around." "Bullshit. You've been here for hours. I've been watching you watch them." "Smart kid." "What do you want? Are you going to try to get in?" He nodded toward the school. "To their group?" "Thinking about it." You?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. They don't take kids. Well, they take kids if they have useful parents. But orphans like me? No. Too much resource drain for not enough labor output. He said it like he was quoting someone. You tried to join them? 2 weeks ago, they gave me some food and sent me away. Said they couldn't support anyone who can't contribute equally. I'm 12. How much can I contribute? I didn't know what to say to that. The silence stretched. There's others like me, he continued. Kids alone. We've been surviving in the neighborhoods, avoiding the dead ones, avoiding the school group. They're not bad people exactly. Just practical. Can't save everyone, so they save the ones who help them survive. What's your name? I asked. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. Trevor. You? Aaron. Well, Aaron, since you're armed and I'm not, I'm going to go now. Unless you're planning to shoot me. I'm not. Good. He started to leave, then stopped. If you do go to them, don't mention you saw me. They don't like that we're out here. Makes them feel guilty or something. And if you decide not to go, there's a house on Birch Street, number 42, where some of us crash sometimes. You'd be welcome there. We don't have much, but we share. Then he was gone. Down the stairs and out before I could respond. I sat there trying to process. Kids surviving alone. A community that's selective about who it helps. Resources being rationed based on utility. It made sense in a brutal way. In a collapse scenario, you can't save everyone. You save who you can save. You prioritize people who make the group stronger. But it also meant this wasn't a refuge. It was a functional community with rules and standards, and not everyone made the cut. I watched the school for another hour. Saw them bring infected bodies out through the gate and dump them in a pile further down the road. Watched them burn the pile. Efficient, organized, cold. Could I get in? Probably. I had skills. I had supplies I could contribute. I'm healthy and strong and know first aid and basic mechanics and a dozen other useful things. But did I want in? Did I want to be part of a community that turned away 12-year-old kids? Even if it made sense for survival? I left the office building and took a different route back, thinking the whole way. When I got home, I sat in my basement and did math. Real hard math. If I stayed alone, I had 3 months of food left. Means if I joined the school group, I'd have access to whatever resources they had. But I'd also be contributing my labor and losing my autonomy. If I tried to team up with Trevor and the other kids, we'd have almost nothing, but we'd have each other. And maybe that counted for something. None of the options were good. They were all just different flavors of bad. Day 43. I saw Jack again. He came back to my street in the morning, did the same routine checking houses and cars, approached my garage and knocked again. Still in there? Offer still stands. We could use someone like you. I can tell from your setup you know what you're doing. Come by, talk, see if it's a fit. No obligation. I almost responded, almost opened the door and had a conversation. But I didn't because I wasn't ready to commit. He left something on my doorstep, and I waited until he was gone, then opened the door a crack. It was a hand-crank radio and a piece of paper with frequencies written on it. The note said, "We broadcast on these frequencies every evening at 1900 hours. If you change your mind, you can reach us there." Jack. I took the radio inside and added it to my supplies. That night at 7 p.m., I turned it on and tuned to the first frequency. Static. Then a voice. "This is Farmington School Community, broadcasting our nightly update. We currently have 18 residents and are operating at sustainable capacity. We have power, clean water, and food production systems in place. We welcome new members who can contribute skills or resources. Construction workers, medical professionals, farmers, engineers, and those with useful trade skills are particularly needed. Now, if you're listening and want to make contact, respond on this frequency or come to the school gymnasium entrance during daylight hours. We maintain regular patrols and a secure perimeter. This is not a raiding party. We're building something that lasts. End transmission. Professional. Organized. Exactly what you'd expect from a firefighter leading a community effort. The transmission repeated twice, then went silent. I sat there with the radio in my hands, thinking about it. They're being selective because they have to be. Resources are finite. Everyone they take in is another mouth to feed another body to protect. It makes sense to only accept people who add value. But Trevor, and however many other kids are out there, they're human too. They deserve a chance, don't they? I don't know anymore. Survival ethics are different than normal ethics. In the old world, we could afford compassion. We could help everyone because resources were abundant. In this world, every choice is life or death. Day 44, I made a decision that's probably stupid, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to find Trevor and the other kids. See what their situation actually is. See if there's a way to help them. Not because it's smart. Not because it helps me survive. Just because it's the right thing to do and I need to do at least one right thing in this nightmare. I know where to look. Birch Street, number 42. It's about 6 blocks from here. Risky trip, but manageable if I'm careful. Tomorrow, day 45. I'll go find them. See what I'm dealing with. Figure out if there's a way to make this work. I'm probably going to regret this. But I already regret so much that one more regret won't make a difference. Day 45, and I found the kids, and now I have a much bigger problem than I thought. I left early again. Same gear, same caution. Took me 90 minutes to go 6 blocks because I was being extra careful. The streets this far from my house had more infected wandering around. I counted 23 visible. Had to backtrack twice when clusters were blocking my route. Birch Street was in rougher shape than my neighborhood. More houses had been broken into, more bodies visible. Several cars burned out. Whatever happened here happened violently. Number 42 was a split-level house with blue siding. Most of the windows were intact, which was a good sign. I approached from the back, knocked on the rear door. 3 quick knocks, then 2 slow. I don't know why I did it that way. Seemed like something that might indicate I wasn't hostile. The door opened a crack. Trevor looked out. Recognition crossed his face. "You actually came?" "Yeah. Can I come in?" He looked behind me, checking if I was alone, then opened the door wider. "Come on." The inside of the house was a mess, but an organized mess. Furniture pushed against walls to create open floor space. Sleeping bags and blankets scattered around, supplies stacked in corners. It looked like a makeshift shelter, which is exactly what it was. There were 7 kids total. Trevor was the oldest at 12. The youngest was maybe 6. 4 boys, 3 girls, all dirty and thin, but alive. They stared at me like I was an alien. Trevor introduced them. "This is Emily, Marcus, and Zoe." He pointed to the 3 youngest. "Oh, that's Brandon and Chris." 2 boys, about 9 or 10. "And that's Riley." A girl, maybe 11, with red hair and a scar across her forehead. I said hi. They mumbled responses. "Where are your parents?" I asked, and then immediately felt stupid because obviously their parents were dead or gone. Riley answered, "Dead, all of them. Mine got sick on day 3. Chris and Brandon's folks turned and they had to run. Emily and Zoe were at a sleepover when it started and never made it home." Marcus's dad was a cop. He went to work that first day and never came back. Trevor's mom tried to drive them out of the city, but they got stopped by infected, and she told him to run. Jesus Christ. How have you been surviving? We scavenge, Trevor said. Houses around here, most people either left or died in the first week. We take what we can find: food, water, supplies. We're careful. We stay together. We watch out for each other. What about the infected? They're slow. We're fast. And we're small, so we can hide in places they can't get to. Crawl spaces, attics. We've gotten good at staying quiet. I looked around the house more carefully. They had maybe 3 weeks of food by my estimate. Water in various containers, some weapons, baseball bats, kitchen knives, a crowbar. Medical supplies were almost non-existent. One first aid kit that looked picked through. The school group, I said. They really turned you away? Trevor went by himself. Riley said. They might take more of us if we all showed up. But probably not. They said something about not having facilities for children without guardians. Like they said we should try to find adult survivors who could look after us. And have you? Found any adults? You're the first one we've seen in 2 weeks who wasn't infected or dangerous. We sat there in silence for a minute. These kids looking at me with hope they were trying to hide. Me trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. I couldn't take them all back to my house. Not enough food, not enough space. We'd all starve faster together. I couldn't leave them here to die slowly when their supplies ran out. I could try to get them into the school group, but that would mean convincing Jack and whoever else was in charge that these kids were worth the resources. Or I could do something incredibly stupid. How much food do you have left? I asked. Trevor looked uncomfortable. Maybe 2 weeks if we're careful. 3 if we ration hard. Water? We collect rain. We have a filter, but it's getting clogged. Medical issues? Anyone sick or injured? They all shook their heads, except Emily, who held up her hand. There was a cut across her palm that looked infected, red and swollen. How long has that been like that? I asked. Few days. I had antibiotics back at my house. I had supplies. I had knowledge. I could help them short term. But long term? Here's what I'm thinking, I said slowly. I have a place. It's secure. I have food and water and medical supplies. Not enough for all of us long term, but enough to stabilize the situation. I can take a few of you back with me today. The ones who need help most urgently. The rest stay here for now, and I'll come back with more supplies tomorrow. We'll figure out a long-term plan together. Why would you help us? Riley asked suspiciously. Because someone should, and because I'm tired of being alone. That was only partly true. I was also doing this because of Angela and Tyler and Emma. Because I couldn't save them, but maybe I could save someone else's kids. Maybe that would count for something. Trevor looked at the others. They had some kind of silent communication happening. Then he nodded. Okay. Emily should go with you because of her hand. And Zoe because she's been coughing and I think she's getting sick. The rest of us will hold down here. I wanted to argue that Trevor should come too because he was the leader and leaving him here was risky, but I also understood. He wasn't going to abandon the others. All right, Emily and Zoe come with me now. I'll get them settled and bring back supplies tomorrow morning. Can you hold out until then? We've held out this long. I gave them one of my spare flashlights and some batteries from my pack. Told them to stay quiet and keep watch and not take any risks. Emily and Zoe gathered their few belongings, basically just the clothes they were wearing and one stuffed animal each. Emily had a rabbit. Zoe had a bear that was missing an eye. The trip back to my house was nerve-wracking as hell. 2 kids who didn't know how to move quietly, who were scared and exhausted. I had to keep them close and keep them silent and keep us all alive. We made it back in about 2 hours with only one close call when an infected came around a corner and we had to hide behind a dumpster while it wandered past. Got them into my house through the garage, down to the basement. They looked around with wide eyes at all the supplies. "You live here?" Emily asked. "For the last 45 days, yeah." "Alone?" "Yeah." "That must be lonely." It was. It really was. I got Emily's hand cleaned and treated, put antibiotic ointment on it and wrapped it properly. Gave her a dose of amoxicillin. Her hand was badly infected, but not beyond saving. Zoe's cough was probably just a cold, but I couldn't take chances. Gave her some children's cough medicine I'd found during my supply runs, made sure she drank plenty of water, fed them both real meals, soup and crackers and some canned fruit. They ate like they were starving, which they probably were. Set them up in the corner of the basement with sleeping bags and blankets. They fell asleep almost immediately. I sat there watching them sleep and thinking about what I'd just done. I'd taken responsibility for 7 kids, 7 mouths to feed, 7 people to protect. My 3-month food supply was now maybe 6 weeks if I stretched it. My secure location was now compromised because more people meant more movement and more noise and more chances for something to go wrong. This was objectively a terrible decision from a survival standpoint. But looking at Emily sleeping with her bandaged hand and Zoe hugging her one-eyed bear, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Tomorrow I'll go back to Birch Street with supplies. Get the others stable. Then I'll need to figure out a real long-term plan, because what I'm doing now isn't sustainable. Maybe I'll try talking to Jack. Let's see if there's a way to get these kids into the school group if I sweeten the deal somehow. Offer my own skills and supplies in exchange for taking them in. Or maybe I'll need to find a different solution entirely. I don't know yet. All I know is that I'm not alone anymore. And that changes everything. Day 45 complete. Still alive. No longer alone. Significantly more complicated. Day 46, and I now understand why the school group is selective about who they accept. I went back to Birch Street this morning loaded down with supplies. Food, water, medical gear, batteries, 2 more flashlights. Enough to keep Trevor and the others going for at least another few weeks. The trip there was harder than before. More infected were wandering the area. I had to take a longer route and it added 40 minutes to the journey. By the time I got to the Blue House, I was exhausted. Knocked our signal. Trevor opened the door, looking relieved. Thought maybe you changed your mind. Said I'd come back. How's everyone holding up? Riley found some canned food in a house 2 blocks over yesterday. Brandon twisted his ankle pretty bad climbing a fence, but he'll be okay. Otherwise, same as before. I brought the supplies inside and we organized them. The kids gathered around like it was Christmas. Watching them get excited over crackers and beef jerky made my chest hurt. We talked about next steps. I explained my situation honestly. Told them I had food for maybe 6 weeks total now that there were 9 of us. Told them about the school group and their broadcast and the fact that they were being selective. We could try to get all of you in if I vouch for you, I said. I have skills they need. I could make it part of the deal. Trevor shook his head. They'll split us up. Put the younger ones with different families, maybe. The older ones they'll expect to work full-time. We'll lose each other. Is that worse than starving in a few weeks? He didn't have an answer for that. Riley spoke up. What if we don't go to them? What if we find somewhere else? There's got to be places outside the city with farms and wells and stuff. Places where we could actually survive long-term instead of just rationing until we run out. That's a long journey through infected territory, I said. And we don't know what we'd find. Could be worse out there than here. Could be better. We went around like that for a while. No good options. Just less bad ones. That's when we heard it. A vehicle outside. Engine noise getting closer. We all froze. Vehicles meant either the school group or someone else, and either way, it meant people. I went to the front window and looked out carefully. A pickup truck, the same one I'd seen at the school. It stopped in front of the house. 3 people got out. One of them was Jack. "Shit," Trevor whispered. "They tracked you here." "How?" "I don't know, but they're not stupid. You show up watching them and then go to the house where they know kids are hiding? They probably followed you." Jack approached the front door, knocked firmly. "Aaron, I know you're in there. Saw you arrive. We need to talk." I looked at Trevor. He looked terrified. The younger kids were backing away from the door. I made a decision, but went to the door and opened it. Kept my hand near my Glock. Jack stood there with 2 others. A woman maybe 40 with a rifle slung over her shoulder. A man about my age with a shotgun. "Jack," I said. "Aaron, glad you're okay. Been worried when you didn't respond to our broadcasts. Been busy. I can see that." He glanced past me into the house. "You're with the kids now?" "Yeah." "That's good. They need someone looking after them." He sounded genuine. "Listen, can we talk? All of us? I think there's a way to make this work that's better than you all trying to survive scattered around." I didn't trust it, but I also didn't have a lot of choice. If they wanted to cause trouble, 3 armed adults versus me and 7 kids wasn't a fight I could win. "All right, come in." They entered slowly. Non-threatening body language. Joe kept their weapons lowered. The kids clustered in the back corner of the room. Jack looked around, saw the supplies I'd brought, saw the condition of the kids. His expression was hard to read. "I'm going to be straight with you," he said. When Trevor came to us 2 weeks ago, we turned him away. That was practical, but it wasn't right. We've been talking about it as a group, debating. Some people think we need to be ruthless about who we accept. Others think we're losing our humanity. I'm somewhere in the middle. "What's your point?" I asked. "My point is that we have space for these kids. We have resources, but we need something in return. We need adults who can contribute, people with skills. You clearly know what you're doing based on how you've survived this long. You join us, bring your supplies and your knowledge. And we'll take in the kids, all of them. They'll be safe, fed, protected, and you'll be part of a community that's actually building something. And if I say no, then you and these kids try to survive on your own with what you've got, and I honestly don't know how long you'll last. Maybe weeks, maybe months if you're lucky and skilled. But winter's coming eventually, and this house isn't weatherproofed, and your food will run out, and then what?" He wasn't wrong. Everything he said was objectively true. "What about them?" I nodded at the kids. What would their situation be? The woman spoke up. Her name was Claire, according to her name tag. "We have 2 families with children already. The kids would be integrated. They'd have chores appropriate to their age. They'd be educated. We have a teacher in our group. They'd be safe. Together or split up?" "Probably split up initially," Jack admitted. "Easier to integrate smaller groups. But they'd see each other daily. We're not cruel." Trevor's voice came from behind me. "And we'd have to follow your rules." "Everyone follows the rules," Claire said. "That's how community works. We contribute according to our ability. We share resources. We protect each other. No one gets a free ride, but everyone gets a fair shake. I looked at Trevor, at Riley, at all of them. This was their lives we were talking about. Their choice as much as mine. Can we have time to discuss it? I asked. Of course. We're going back to the school now. You all talk it over? Come by tomorrow if you want to take the offer. Doors open. Jack paused. And Aaron? I meant what I said before. We could really use someone like you. This isn't a trap. We're trying to build something real. They left, got in their truck, and drove off. The house was silent for a long moment after they were gone. Then everyone started talking at once. Arguments, questions, fear, hope, all mixed together. I let them talk for a while, then called for quiet. This is a group decision, I said. I'm not going to force anything. We vote. But you need to understand what we're choosing between. Option 1, we accept their offer. You kids get safety and food and structure. I join their community and contribute. We lose some independence, but we gain stability. Option 2, we stick together on our own. More freedom, but less security. We ration supplies and hope we can find a long-term solution before we run out. Option 3, we try to make it to the rural areas. High risk, but potentially high reward if we can find somewhere sustainable. What do you think we should do? Emily asked. Honestly, I think the school group is our best shot at survival. I don't like that they're selective. I don't like giving up autonomy. But they have infrastructure. They're organized. And they're offering to take all of you, which is more than I expected. Trevor looked conflicted. We've been on our own for 5 weeks. We've survived. We've taken care of each other. Joining them feels like giving up. It's not giving up, Riley said quietly. It's choosing to survive differently. We don't have to like it. We just have to decide if it's better than the alternatives. We talked for 2 more hours. Went through every angle, every concern, every fear. Or in the end, we voted, 7 kids and me. The decision was 6-2 in favor of accepting the school's offer. Trevor and Marcus voted against. Everyone else voted yes. Trevor accepted the outcome, but I could see it bothered him. He'd been the leader, kept them alive. Now he was going to be just another kid in someone else's system. I spent that night at the Blue House with all of them. We shared what food I'd brought, told stories. The kids talked about their lives before, their families, their homes, things they missed, things they were scared of, things they hoped for. Emily missed her mom's spaghetti. Zoe missed her cat. Brandon missed video games. Chris missed his treehouse. Marcus missed his dad's police car. Riley missed her little brother who died on day 4 when the infection spread through their apartment building. Trevor didn't share what he missed. I told them about my sister Angela and my nephew and niece, about how I'd failed to save them, about how maybe helping these kids was my way of making up for that, even though it couldn't really. They listened without judgment. Around midnight, they all fell asleep. I stayed awake on watch, thinking about tomorrow, about what we were walking into, about whether I was making the right choice, my house with my supplies and my security and my isolation, or a community with rules and structure and other people's decisions affecting my life. Old me would have chosen isolation every time, would have said trust no one, rely on yourself, prepare for the worst. But old me was alone in a basement counting cans and slowly going crazy. Maybe new me could try something different. Day 46 complete, the decision made. Tomorrow we join the school group. Whatever happens next, at least we face it together. Day 47, and we're at the school, and it's better than I expected and worse than I feared. We left the Blue House at dawn. 9 of us. The 7 kids, Emily and Zoe, who'd stayed at my place last night. Me. I had them pack only essentials because we couldn't carry much. Clothes, personal items, sentimental things. The rest we left behind. The walk to the school was 3 blocks, but it took us 90 minutes because I was being paranoid about infected. Kept the group tight, kept everyone quiet. Had Trevor and Riley as rear guard while I took point. We only saw 4 infected the whole way. Avoided them all easily. The school fence came into view around 8 a.m., not because someone was on watch. A man I didn't recognize with binoculars. He must have radioed ahead because by the time we reached the gate, Jack was there. "You came," he said. Genuine relief in his voice. We talked it over. "We're ready to try this." He opened the gate. We filed through. The kids stayed close to me like baby ducks following their mother. Inside the fence perimeter, it was different. Organized, clean. There were garden plots with actual vegetables growing, solar panels rigged up properly, a water collection system, people moving with purpose. Jack led us to the gymnasium entrance. Inside, it was set up like a large communal living space, sections divided by hanging sheets and tarps, a cooking area with camping stoves, storage areas, sleeping areas, maybe 20 people visible doing various tasks. They stopped to look at us. New arrivals were probably rare. Jack clapped his hands. "Everyone, this is Aaron, and these are the kids we've been discussing. Let's make them feel welcome." Claire appeared from somewhere. "I'll take the children and get them situated. Aaron, you stay with Jack. We need to go over logistics." The kids looked at me with panic. I crouched down to their level. "It's okay. Go with Claire. I'll check on you soon. You're safe here." Emily hugged me, then Zoe, then all of them in a rush. Quick, desperate hugs from kids who'd lost everyone and were terrified of losing someone else. Claire led them away. Trevor looked back once. I nodded at him, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. Then it was just me and Jack. "Let's walk," he said. He showed me around the facility, explained their systems, and the solar panels provided enough power for lights and basic equipment. They had rainwater collection feeding into a filtration system. Gardens were producing, but not enough yet. They still relied on scavenged food. They had a medical area with a former EMT named Richard running it. They had a security rotation. They had work assignments. Everyone contributed. "We're at 18 adults now with you," Jack said. "Plus, the 7 kids makes 25 total. That's pushing our capacity. We can feed that many for maybe 2 months with current stores. After that, we need to be producing more food or finding reliable supply sources." "What about the infected?" I asked. "They're a manageable problem inside our perimeter. The fence works. We do regular patrols outside to clear any that cluster near us. But we've lost 2 people to bites in the 5 weeks we've been operational. We're careful, but not perfect." We stopped at the garden area. A woman about 60 was tending tomato plants. "This is Margaret," Jack said. She was an agriculture extension agent before. "She's teaching us to grow food." Margaret looked up. Teaching people who thought vegetables came from grocery stores how to farm is an interesting challenge. "How's it going?" I asked. "We'll have tomatoes in a few weeks. Potatoes are coming along. Beans are decent. But we need more variety, more space, more tons. Can't feed 25 people on a gymnasium garden long term." We moved on. Jack showed me the defense setup. They had a small armory, about a dozen firearms, several melee weapons, ammunition rationed carefully. Like the watch rotation was 4 people at a time, covering different quadrants. They had radio communication with 2 people who'd set up in other secure locations nearby, an apartment building roof and a grocery store. "We're trying to build a network," Jack explained. "Multiple secure locations, share information, coordinate scavenging, watch each other's backs, So far, we have 3 nodes, including us. Why not consolidate? Get everyone in one place? Too risky. If one location gets overrun, everyone dies. Distributed network means redundancy. Smart. I wouldn't have thought of that. He showed me the living quarters. Families got more space. Singles shared areas. The kids would be split among the 3 families with children. The Johnsons, who had an 8-year-old daughter, the Patels, who had twin boys aged 10, and then Claire, who had a 6-year-old son. They'll integrate quickly, Jack said. Kids are resilient. I wasn't sure I believed that, but I didn't argue. Finally, he took me to a small office area that had been set up in what used to be the school library. This is where we make decisions, he said. We have a council, 7 people including me. We vote on major choices, resource allocation, new members, security protocols. Everyone else votes on their representative. Democratic. As much as possible. Better than one person having all the power. Better than mob rule. It works so far. He sat down behind a makeshift desk. I stayed standing. Aaron, I'm going to be direct with you. We need you here. You've survived alone for 47 days, which tells me you're resourceful and skilled. You took in those kids, which tells me you have character. But I need to know what you bring to the table besides mouths to feed. What are your skills? I thought about how to answer that. I was an insurance adjuster before. Not directly useful now, but it taught me risk assessment and documentation. I'm good with my hands. Basic carpentry, electrical work, plumbing. Nothing professional, but competent. I know first aid. I'm a decent shot. I can run and climb and fight if needed. I have supplies back at my house. Food, water filtration equipment, ammunition, tools, medical gear. And I know the surrounding area pretty well. Jack nodded. The supplies are good. We can organize a team to retrieve them. Your practical skills are useful. We need people who can fix things and build things. Your house, where is it exactly? I told him. That's in our scavenging radius. We'll want to secure it as a potential fallback location. Can you provide the layout and access points? Yeah. Good. He leaned back in his chair. Here's how this works. Everyone here has a primary assignment and a secondary. We rotate them periodically so no one gets burned out. What would you prefer? What's needed most? Honestly, security and scavenging. We need people willing to go outside the fence. People who can handle themselves in dangerous situations. Most of our group are ordinary folks who've never held a gun or dealt with violence. We have maybe 5 people comfortable with regular patrols. I need to double that number. I can do that. You sure? It's the most dangerous work. Highest casualty rate. I'm sure. He studied me for a moment. Why? You could request something safer. Garden work or cooking or maintenance. Because I'm not good at sitting still. And because if I'm going to be part of this community, I want to pull my weight doing the hard things. All right. Security and scavenging primary. What for secondary? Whatever you need. Maintenance, maybe? Works for me. He stood and extended his hand. Welcome to Farmington School Community. We have rules. Break them and you're out. Contribute and your family. Fair? Fair. We shook hands. The rest of the day was orientation, meeting the other residents, learning the layout, getting assigned a sleeping space, a corner of the gymnasium with a cot and a footlocker, being issued a schedule, breakfast at 700, work assignments 800 to 1200 and 1400 to 1800, communal dinner at 1900, council meetings Tuesdays and Fridays, security briefings daily at 0600. I checked on the kids during lunch. They were scattered among different groups, but seemed okay. Emily was with the Johnsons. She showed me her hand. Claire had rebandaged it with better supplies. Zoe was with Claire's family. She was still coughing, but Claire gave her actual medicine from their supply. Trevor was with the Patels. He looked uncomfortable, but was trying to fit in. I pulled him aside. "How you doing?" "Fine." "Trevor, I don't like being told when to eat and sleep and work. I don't like being split up from the others, but it's better than starving, so I'll deal with it. It gets easier." "Does it?" I didn't have an answer for that. My first security shift was that evening, and I was paired with a guy named Marcus, no relation to the kid, who was former Army. We walked the fence perimeter, checking for weaknesses and watching for infected. "You'll get used to the routine," Marcus said. "First week is weird. Everyone watching you, testing you, seeing if you'll run or crack or steal or whatever. Just be consistent and pull your weight and they'll accept you." "How long have you been here?" "Since week 2. I was one of the first Jack recruited. Saw what he was trying to build and figured it beat dying alone." "Any regrets?" "Every day. But I regret dying more." We saw 3 infected during our patrol. They were on the other side of the fence, shambling aimlessly. We marked their locations for the morning sweep team to clear. "We keep the area around the fence clear for about 100 yards, Marcus explained. "Infected that wander closer get eliminated, usually at night with suppressed firearms. Loud gunshots attract more, so we avoid them when possible." "How many are left in the area?" "Hard to say. Couple hundred visible in our patrol radius, probably thousands in the wider city. They spread out over time, follow sounds, wander. Eventually they'll disperse more, or we'll thin them enough to expand our secure zone." "You think this place can last?" "Long term? No. We're in a suburban area with finite resources. Eventually we need to move somewhere with agricultural land and fresh water sources. But short term, yeah. We can make it through winter if we're smart." That night, I lay on my cot in the gymnasium, listening to 25 people sleeping, snoring, coughing, shifting, breathing. So many sounds after weeks of silence in my basement. I thought about my house sitting empty, about my supplies still there, about the basement where I'd spent 47 days alone preparing for scenarios that didn't include this. I thought about the kids scattered through different sleeping areas, about Trevor trying to adapt, about Emily's infected hand, about Zoe's cough. I thought about Angela and Tyler and Emma, about Jennifer in Sacramento, about all the people who didn't make it. And I thought about what Jack said, that we're building something real. Maybe we were. Maybe this community would work. Maybe we'd survive long enough to figure out what comes next. Or maybe it would fall apart and we'd all die, and it wouldn't matter anyway. But for now, I was part of something. Not alone, not isolated, not just counting days until my supplies ran out. For better or worse, this was my life now. Day 47 complete. New chapter beginning. Still scared, still uncertain, but not alone. Not anymore. Day 53. And I'm starting to understand the fault lines in this community. First week was integration, learning routines, proving I could handle security work, made 3 scavenging runs with different partners, retrieved supplies from my house with a 4-person team including Marcus and 2 others named Deshawn and Patricia. Everything I'd stored over months was now communal property. Felt strange, but also relieved not to be solely responsible for it anymore. The kids have adapted variably. Emily's hand healed well. No infection. Zoe's cough cleared up with rest and medicine. Brandon's ankle is better. They're fed regularly and safe, and that counts for a lot. But Trevor is struggling. He's with the Patel family, and Mr. Patel, first name Rajesh, runs a tight ship. Strict schedules, high expectations. Trevor went from being the leader of a group of survivors to being a kid, expected to follow rules without question. He's chafing. I see him during meals and breaks. He sits separate from his assigned family when he can. Still checks on the younger kids constantly. Still acts like their guardian, even though he's not anymore. Yesterday, he got in trouble for sneaking extra food to Marcus the kid. Got caught by Claire and had his own rations reduced for a day as punishment. He took it without complaint, but I could see the anger in his eyes. I pulled him aside after dinner. "You can't do that," I said. "You break the rules, they'll kick you out." Marcus was hungry. We're all hungry. Everyone gets the same ration. That's how it works. That's how it works for them. We took care of each other before. Now we follow their rules and hope they don't decide we're too much trouble. Trevor, I know, okay? I know we need them. I know this is better than starving. But I hate that we gave up everything to be here. I hate that Riley and me aren't even in the same family group. I hate that we have to ask permission to do anything. He wasn't wrong, but he also wasn't seeing the bigger picture. "You're alive," I said. "The younger ones are safe. Sometimes that has to be enough." "Is it enough for you?" I didn't answer that. The fault lines I mentioned. I'm seeing them everywhere now that I've been here a week. There's tension between the original members and newer arrivals. The originals feel like they built this, and newcomers should be grateful. Newcomers feel like they're being treated as second-class citizens. There's tension between families with kids and singles. Families get more space and resources. Singles do more dangerous work. There's tension between those who want to expand and those who want to stay fortified. Jack wants to eventually move to a rural location with farmland. Others, like Margaret, think we should stay put and improve what we have. There's tension about how democratic the decision-making actually is. The council votes on major decisions, but Jack has a lot of influence, and some people feel like it's his way or nothing. And there's tension about the kids I brought. 7 extra mouths, our limited contribution capability. Some people think we shouldn't have taken them in. I heard 2 women talking during my shift yesterday. Didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I was on perimeter watch and they were on the other side of a wall. "We can't afford dead weight," one said. "Those kids eat but don't produce." "They're children," the other replied. "What do you want them to do?" I want Jack to be realistic about resources. We take in every stray and we all starve faster. So we should have left them to die? I'm saying we need to make hard choices. We're not running a charity. I didn't intervene, but I filed it away. Not everyone here is on board with the community's direction. Not everyone agrees with Jack's decisions. And pressure is building. Day 54, we had a council meeting. Open to everyone, but only council members vote. I attended because I wanted to understand how decisions got made. The meeting was about resource allocation. Margaret presented her report on food stores. At current consumption, we had 7 weeks left. The gardens would start producing soon, but not enough to fully sustain us. We needed to either reduce rations further or find new supply sources. "Reducing rations is going to cause problems," Claire said. "People are already stretched thin. Cut more and we'll see health issues, weakness, sickness, not to mention morale." "So we increase scavenging operations," Jack said. "Hit larger targets, grocery stores, warehouses, take bigger risks for bigger payoffs." Marcus, the soldier, not the kid, objected. "Bigger targets mean more infected. We don't have the firepower or people to clear a warehouse safely. We try that, and we'll lose people." "We don't try it, and we starve," someone else said. back and forth like that for an hour. Eventually they voted, 4-3 in favor of planning a major scavenging operation targeting a warehouse district about 3 miles away. High risk, high reward, 3-day mission with a team of 8 people. I volunteered. So did Marcus, Deshawn, Patricia, 2 others named Greg and Amanda, who I didn't know well, and a woman named Lynn, who was a former nurse. Jack would lead personally, which surprised me until I understood that's how he maintains authority. He doesn't send people to do things he won't do himself. We spent day 55 planning, studying maps, marking routes, identifying targets, estimating infected density, running scenarios. The warehouse district used to serve restaurants and grocery stores in the area. If we could hit even one intact warehouse, we'd find commercial quantities of food, enough to extend our timeline significantly. But it's 3 miles through city streets, unknown infected numbers, unknown building conditions, multiple choke points. If something goes wrong, we could lose half the team or everyone. My job would be point security with Marcus. We'd clear paths and watch for threats while others handled loading supplies. We leave tomorrow. Day 56. I'm writing this the night before because there's a real chance I don't come back. Wanted to document my thoughts while I still can. I've been here 6 days. Started to know people's names, started to understand the dynamics, started to feel like maybe this could work. But I'm also not naive. This community is fragile, held together by Jack's leadership and shared necessity. Take away either of those, and it could collapse fast. The kids, though. That's what I keep thinking about. If I don't make it back, they'll be okay. They're integrated enough. They have food and shelter. Trevor will keep an eye on the younger ones, even if he hates the structure. That's something. That's better than where they were. Better than dying alone in scattered houses, waiting for supplies to run out. I checked on them tonight. Said goodnight without making it obvious I was saying goodbye. Emily showed me a drawing she made. Her family from before. Her mom and dad and little brother. All smiling. All dead now. Do you think they'd be proud of me? She asked. For surviving? I think they'd be proud of how strong you've been. I don't feel strong. You're here. You're alive. That's strong. She hugged me and went to bed. Zoe asked if I'd be at breakfast tomorrow. I lied and said yes, even though we're leaving before dawn. Trevor knows something's up. He has good instincts. He pulled me aside. You're doing something dangerous tomorrow. Just a supply run. Bullshit. You have that look. Same look my dad had the day he left for work and never came back. I didn't know what to say to that. Don't die, Trevor said. The little ones need you. I need you. I'll do my best. Your best better be enough. I'm sitting here now at 0200. Can't sleep. Mission brief is at 0400. We leave at 0500. My gear is ready. Glock 19 with suppressor. Lim AR-15 with 4 magazines. Hatchet, knife, backpack, water. Minimal supplies because we're coming back loaded or we're not coming back at all. I keep thinking about the conversation I heard, about dead weight and hard choices, about how communities survive by being selective, by prioritizing, by making decisions that in normal times would be unconscionable. And I wonder if that's what we're becoming. If survival requires us to lose the parts of ourselves that make us human. The compassion, the willingness to help people who can't help themselves. The belief that every life has value beyond utility. Or maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe we're just doing what we have to do to survive. Maybe that's enough. I don't know. What I know is that tomorrow, I'm going into a dangerous situation with 7 people I'm trusting with my life, when they're trusting me with theirs. And somewhere in that shared risk is the foundation of whatever this community is becoming. For better or worse. Day 55 complete. Hours until the mission. Writing this in case it's my last entry. If someone finds this later, the kids at the school, they matter. Whatever happens to me, make sure they're okay. Trevor, Emily, Zoe, Marcus, Brandon, Chris, Riley, they deserve to survive this. We all do. Day 59, and I'm alive, but barely. And everything is different now. The mission went wrong in ways I couldn't have predicted. I need to write this while it's fresh because parts of it don't make sense, even to me, and I lived through it. We left at 0500 on day 56 like planned. 8 of us in 2 vehicles, Jack's pickup and a van we'd secured. The route took us through residential areas first, then industrial zones approaching the warehouse district. First hour was quiet. Streets empty except for occasional infected. We drove slow, lights off, navigating by moonlight and familiarity. Dawn broke around 0600, and that's when we started seeing more of them. Infected don't sleep, but they're less active at night. As light comes, they seem to wake up, start moving more. We saw dozens, then hundreds, clustered around old accident sites and buildings and just wandering. Jack called a halt at a gas station about 2 miles from our target. We needed to assess. The infected density was way higher than our reconnaissance suggested. "We should turn back," Amanda said. She was shaking. First mission outside the fence for her. "We came for supplies," Jack said. "We turned back empty-handed, and we wasted fuel and risked 8 people for nothing. We keep going, and we might lose people for real," Marcus argued. They went back and forth. I was watching the street, counting infected, watching movement patterns. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't articulate what. Jack made the call. "We continue. Stick to the plan. Hit the warehouse, load fast, get out." We approached the warehouse district from the north. 3 massive buildings in a row. Our target was the middle one, supposed to be a restaurant supply warehouse. Loading docks, offices, massive storage area. The fence around the facility was chain link, but intact. The gate was closed, but not locked. We drove through and closed it behind us. Immediate relief being inside a fenced perimeter, even if it wasn't actually secure. The loading dock had 3 bay doors, all closed. We tried them. Second one was unlocked, rolled it up carefully. The warehouse interior was dark. We used flashlights, aisles of industrial shelving stretching back into shadow. This was good. This was exactly what we needed. Jack split us into teams. Marcus and me on security watching approaches. Deshaun and Greg on loading. Find the food, load the vehicles. Jack, Patricia, Amanda, and Lynn searching deeper in the warehouse for the best supplies. We started working. I took position at the bay door, watching the yard and fence line. Marcus positioned at the pedestrian entrance on the side of the building. 20 minutes in, Deshaun called out. "Jackpot. Found the dry goods section, industrial cans, rice in 50-pound bags, pasta. This is huge." They started hauling. Big, awkward loads. Enough food to feed 25 people for months if we got it all back. That's when I saw movement outside the fence. Infected, a lot of them. Moving toward our location from the south, not random wandering, deliberate movement toward our position. "Marcus," I called. "We have a problem." He came over, looked, cursed. They heard us. The garage door, our voices. "They're coming." "How many?" 30 visible, probably more behind them. We radioed Jack. He came back to the loading area. "How long do we have?" he asked. "They're moving slow, maybe 10 minutes before they hit the fence. If the fence holds, we're okay. If it doesn't, it'll hold. Chain link can take a lot of pressure. We keep loading. fast as possible, be ready to pull out if needed. We went back to work, but now I could hear them, that moaning, getting closer, and the sound of bodies pressing against metal. 5 minutes later, Marcus called me over. The side entrance where he was posted had a window. Through it, we could see infected at that fence section, too. "They're surrounding the building," he said. "How?" "I don't know. But look at them. They're not just wandering, they're positioning, like they know we're in here." I looked closer. He was right. The infected were spreading out along the fence line, not clustering in one spot like they usually did when attracted to a sound, distributing themselves evenly. "That's not normal behavior," I said. "No, it's not." I radioed Jack again. "We need to leave. Now. The infected are acting strange." "Strange how?" "Organized. Spreading out. Surrounding us. Infected don't organize." "I know, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing." Jack came back again, looked for himself. His expression changed. "Everyone to the vehicles. Now. Leave whatever isn't loaded." We scrambled. The team deep in the warehouse came running back. We'd loaded maybe a quarter of what we could carry. But that didn't matter anymore. That's when the fence started coming down, not breaking from pressure, being pulled down deliberately. Sections of chain link being grabbed and yanked and torn away from posts. And behind the fence, I saw something that made my brain stop working for a second. Mixed in with the infected were people. Actual living people. Wearing masks, working with the infected, directing them. "What the fuck?" Marcus whispered. The infected poured through the gaps in the fence, coming from all sides, and the people with them were pointing. At us, at the warehouse, directing the infected toward us like they were attack dogs. "Go, go, go!" Jack shouted. We piled into the vehicles. Deshawn was in the van with Greg and Amanda. Jack, Marcus, Patricia, Lynn, and me in the pickup. Jack gunned the engine, aimed for the gate we'd come through. But there were infected in the way now. He hit them. Bodies went flying. The truck shuddered, but kept moving. We made it through the gate onto the street. The van was right behind us. And then I looked back and saw one of the masked people raise something. A radio, maybe. Or a signal device. Ahead of us, the street was filling with infected. Coming from buildings and alleys and side streets, way too many, way too coordinated. "They herded us," I said. "Yeah, this was a trap." "Shut up and shoot," Jack said. I leaned out the window with my AR and started firing, aiming for heads, dropping infected. But there were too many. The van behind us swerved, trying to avoid a cluster. Clipped an abandoned car, spun sideways, stopped. Jack slammed the brakes. "We have to get them." "We can't," Marcus said. "There's too many." Through the back window, I could see Deshawn trying to restart the van. Amanda was screaming. Greg was out of the vehicle, firing his pistol. Then the infected were on them. Greg went down first. Swarmed. I saw him disappear under bodies. Amanda got the door open and ran. Made it maybe 10 feet before they caught her. Deshawn got the van started. But the infected were at the windows, breaking through. He was fighting them off, but there were too many. "We have to go," Patricia said. She was crying. "We can't help them." Jack sat there for 3 seconds that lasted forever. Then he hit the gas. We drove. Left them behind. Left 3 people to die because saving them would have killed us all. The route back was a nightmare. Infected everywhere. Coming from directions that made no sense unless they were being directed. We took side streets and alleys, crashed through fences. At one point went through someone's backyard and house, literally through the garage door and out the back. Lynn was hit. An infected hand came through the passenger window and grabbed her. She struggled and I pulled her away, but it tore a chunk of her arm. Blood everywhere. "Am I infected?" she kept asking. "Am I infected?" "I don't know," Patricia said. "We'll find out." We made it back to the school at 1400 hours. 5 of us instead of 8. Van lost. Supplies minimal compared to what we'd hoped. Lynn bleeding and possibly infected. Jack called an emergency council meeting. Everyone gathered in the gymnasium. He explained what happened. The warehouse, the trap, the people working with infected, the loss of Greg, Amanda, and Deshawn. Silence. Then chaos. People shouting, demanding answers, demanding to know how this happened, demanding to know who these people were. "I don't know," Jack said. "But we need to assume we're not the only organized group out there. And we need to assume not all of them are friendly." Lynn was quarantined in a separate room. We'd know in 18 hours if she was infected. If she was, she'd have to be dealt with. That's the rule, and no exceptions. I spent the rest of the day in shock, replaying it in my head, the faces of the masked people, the way the infected moved when directed, Greg's last moments, Amanda's scream, Deshawn trying to fight them off. We'd lost 3 people, good people who'd survived for weeks, gone in minutes because we walked into something we didn't understand. That night, Trevor found me sitting outside the gymnasium. "I heard what happened," he said. "You okay?" "No." "Good. You shouldn't be okay after that." We sat in silence for a while. "There are people out there using infected as weapons," I said. "That's what we saw. People who figured out how to control them somehow, direct them, use them. Why would anyone do that? Control, power, same reasons people do anything terrible. Whilst if you can weaponize the infected, you can take whatever you want from whoever you want." "Are they going to come here?" "I don't know." But I was lying. I knew. If they'd set up that trap at the warehouse, they knew about the school. They knew about us. They were probably watching right now, deciding when to make their move. Day 59, 3 people dead, 1 possibly infected. Everything I thought I understood about this new world was wrong. The infected aren't the only threat. The real threat is what humans have become. And we're not ready for that. Lynn turned at 0800 on day 57. 18 hours exactly from when she was bitten. I was there when it happened. They asked me to be one of the people in the room because I'd been on the mission. Because I'd seen what happened to her. Because they thought maybe she'd want a familiar face at the end. She'd been lucid until about hour 16. Talking, crying, saying goodbye to people, writing letters to family members who were probably dead. Then she got confused, started asking where she was, who we were. Her fever spiked. She began having seizures. By hour 17, she was nonverbal, just staring, breathing hard. Her eyes were changing, that glassy, infected look. At hour 18, she lunged at Richard, the EMT who was checking her vitals. He backed away just in time. She fell off the cot and started crawling toward us, making that sound, that wet, gurgling moan. Jack put her down with his pistol. 1 shot, quick and clean. We buried her outside the fence that afternoon. Small service. People said words about her. And I didn't know her well enough to speak, but I stood there and felt the weight of it. 3 people gone. 3 bodies that used to be humans with names and histories and people who cared about them. Now just gone. The council met again that night. Security briefing. "We have to assume the worst," Jack said. "The group that set that trap knows we exist. They may have tracked us back here. We need enhanced security, more watch positions. We need to scout the area and identify potential threats. and we need a contingency plan if this location becomes compromised. Where would we even go? Claire asked. The other network locations? The apartment building or the grocery store, or we scatter. Pre-arranged meetup points. We survive however we can. That's not a plan, someone said. That's giving up. That's reality. I mean, we're 22 people with limited weapons trying to survive in a world where other groups are apparently weaponizing the infected. We're not safe here. We never were. We just didn't know it until now. Marcus spoke up. I propose we send out a recon team. Small, quiet, scout the area where we saw those people. Figure out where they're based, how many there are, what their capabilities are. Intelligence before action. Who goes? Marcus looked at me. Aaron and me. We were both there. We saw them. We'd recognize them again. 2-person team, light and fast, 3-day mission. Everyone looked at Jack. He considered. You'd be risking 2 of our best security people on a scouting mission that might not yield anything useful. Or we'd be getting information that could save everyone here. Jack nodded slowly. Do it. But if you're not back in 72 hours, we assume you're lost and we move forward without you. We started planning immediately. Different approach than the warehouse mission. No vehicles, too loud, on foot, moving through back roads and hidden routes. Observation only, no engagement. Get in, gather intel, get out. We'd leave tomorrow, day 58. I spent that evening with the kids again. Trevor, especially. Pulled him aside and told him what I was doing. You're leaving again. Just for a few days. People keep saying that, and then they don't come back. I'm coming back. You don't know that. He was right. I didn't. Trevor, if something happens to me, you need to take care of the others. I know you hate the structure here. I know it's not what you want. But they're safer here than anywhere else. Don't you understand? I'm 12. I know. But you're also the toughest person I've met in this whole nightmare. Those kids trust you. So do I. Don't put that on me. I'm not putting anything on you. I'm just saying you're capable of more than you think. He looked away. Just come back okay? I'm tired of people leaving. I'll do my best. We left at 0600 on day 58, Marcus and me. Light packs with food and water for 3 days. Weapons but minimal ammo. We weren't planning to fight. Binoculars, maps, radio with encryption. The plan was to check in every 12 hours if possible. We moved through the city like ghosts, staying off main roads, using buildings for cover, avoiding infected. We saw plenty, but they didn't see us. By day 1 afternoon, we were back near the warehouse district. Set up an observation post in a parking garage across from the warehouses. And what we saw explained everything. The warehouse we'd hit was part of a larger complex. 4 buildings total. The other 3 were occupied, fortified, vehicles visible, solar panels, organized activity. Through binoculars, I could see people moving between buildings, armed, wearing those same masks. And they had infected with them, not attacking them, following them, being herded. How? Marcus whispered. I watched closer. The masked people had something on poles. I couldn't make out what at first. Then one of them used it on an infected that was wandering off. A shock prod, maybe. Or something similar. The infected reacted and got back in line. They're using pain compliance, I said. Electric shocks or something similar. Oh, conditioning the infected to respond to stimuli. That's insane. That's effective. We watched for 6 hours, documented everything we saw, counted people, at least 30 visible, probably more inside. Counted infected, hundreds contained in fenced areas. Counted vehicles, 8 including 2 military-style trucks. This wasn't a survival group. This was an operation, organized, well-supplied, dangerous. At dusk, we pulled back to a safer observation point about a mile away, found an empty office building, and set up in an interior room with no windows. "We need to report this," Marcus said. We radioed Jack, encrypted channel, gave him our findings. His response: "Jesus Christ. Any indication they know our location?" "Not confirmed. But we have to assume yes. The warehouse trap was too well planned, and they knew someone would come for supplies eventually. Get back here. We need to plan a response. Tomorrow. We want one more day of observation. Confirm numbers and capabilities." Long silence. Then, 72 hours, remember? Clock's ticking. Day 59 we observed from multiple positions. Confirmed our estimates. 30 to 40 people in their group. Hundreds of trained infected. Well-armed, well-organized. They were running supply missions just like we were. But they were using infected to clear buildings and intimidate competitors. Around noon, we saw something else. A vehicle approached their compound. Pickup truck. 3 people inside looking desperate. They stopped at the gate and someone came out to talk to them. The conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes. Then the masked people opened the gate, where the newcomers drove in. We watched for an hour, but they didn't come back out. "Are they recruiting?" Marcus asked. "Or capturing?" We stayed another 6 hours, then started working our way back toward the school. Took a different route, careful, slow. That's when we saw it. About a mile from the school, in a residential area. Fresh markings on houses, spray-painted symbols, numbers, arrows pointing directions. "They're mapping," I said. "Scouting our area." Marcus photographed the markings. "We need to move faster." We pushed hard, got back to the school at 2000 hours on day 59. 62 hours since we'd left. Jack assembled the council immediately. We presented everything. The compound, the numbers, the trained infected, the scouting marks near our location. "They're going to hit us," Jack said, and it wasn't a question. "Probably. I don't know when, but they know we're here." "Can we fight them off?" Marcus shook his head. "Not if they come with infected. We have 22 people, maybe 10 who can fight effectively. They have double that plus hundreds of infected they can deploy. We'd be overrun." "So we run," Claire said. "We bug out. Go to one of the other network locations." "They've probably scouted those too," I said. "These people are thorough." Silence. Then Jack spoke. "We have maybe 3 options. 1, we leave now. Scatter. Every person for themselves. Probably means most of us die alone. 2, we consolidate with the other network sites. Pool our resources. Make a stand together. Better odds, but still not great. 3, we make contact with this group, try to negotiate. Maybe they're not hostile. Maybe we can coexist." "They killed 3 of our people," Patricia said. "Set a trap for us." "You want to negotiate with them?" "I want us to survive. And making enemies of the only other organized group in the area doesn't seem like a survival strategy." The debate went on for 2 hours. Everyone had opinions. Fear and anger and desperation all mixed together. Finally, they voted. Option 2 won. 4 votes. Consolidate with the network locations. Make a defensive stand together. We'd start moving people tomorrow. Day 60. Non-combatants and children first. Supplies second. Security last. I found Trevor after the meeting and told him what was happening. "We're leaving?" His face showed relief. "Yeah, going to a different location. Bigger, more defensible. And you and the other kids will go in the first group tomorrow." "What about you?" "I'll be in the last group, making sure everyone gets out safe. So I won't see you tomorrow. Probably not, but you'll see me at the new place, I promise. You keep making promises you can't guarantee. I know. He hugged me then, hard, this tough kid who'd survived hell and kept 6 other kids alive, breaking down for just a second. Don't die, he whispered. Please don't die. I won't. Another promise I couldn't guarantee. That night I sat in the gymnasium watching people pack. 22 lives condensed into bags and boxes, everything we'd built here in 6 weeks getting dismantled and loaded. Jack sat down next to me. You did good, he said. The recon, getting us intel, giving us options. We're still running. Yeah, but we're running together. That's something. Is it enough? Has to be. I thought about Angela and Tyler and Emma again. About how I'd failed to save them when it mattered. About how I'd managed to save these 7 kids at least for now. About whether that balanced the scales somehow. It didn't. Nothing balanced those scales. But trying had to mean something. Day 59 complete. Tomorrow we abandon the school. Tomorrow we consolidate. Tomorrow we keep surviving however we can. The infected are still out there. The people weaponizing them are still out there. And we're still here. Still fighting. Still hoping it means something. I'm writing this fast because I don't know how much time I have. It's day 63. We're at the consolidated location, a 4-story apartment building that the network had secured. 22 from our group. 15 from the grocery store location, 8 from the apartment building. 45 people total now. Too many. Not enough food. Tension high. But we're together and fortified. And that's supposed to count for something. The evacuation from the school went smoothly. Kids and non-combatants moved first, like planned. Supplies second, security team last. By end of day 60, we were out and the school was empty. We destroyed what we couldn't carry. Contaminated food stores, broke equipment, didn't want to leave anything useful for whoever came after. The new location is better defensively. 4 stories gives us elevation, multiple stairwells, roof access for observation. The ground floor is barricaded. We control the entry points. Gardens on the roof in the works. Water collection systems, power from solar. But it's cramped. 45 people in a space meant for maybe 30. Sleeping areas are packed. Supplies are tight. Rationing is stricter than before. And the groups don't fully trust each other yet. The grocery store people feel like they're doing us a favor taking us in. The apartment people resent both groups for crowding them. Our school people feel defensive and displaced. Jack is trying to integrate everyone. Shared work assignments, mixed security teams, communal meals. But it's hard. Humans are tribal. We naturally segregate into in-groups and out-groups. Trevor and the kids are struggling with the new situation. They were just getting used to the school. Now everything is different again. New families. New rules, new spaces. Riley cried herself to sleep last night. Emily's hand infection came back. Stress, probably. Aunt Zoe's cough returned. Marcus the kid got in a fight with one of the grocery store kids over food. Brandon won't talk to anyone. Trevor is holding them together, but I can see him fraying. Chris is gone. That's the part I've been avoiding writing. Day 61. Second day at the new location. Chris was on a scavenging team with 3 adults. Hit a pharmacy 2 blocks away. Good target. Low risk, theoretically. They cleared the building, got inside, started loading medical supplies. Then they heard it. Movement in the back. A lot of movement. The back storage area had infected inside. Somehow they'd gotten trapped when the pharmacy closed, and they'd been there for 2 months. Dozens of them. The scavenging team tried to retreat, but Chris panicked, ran the wrong direction, deeper into the store instead of toward the exit. By the time they realized and went back for him, it was too late. They brought his body back. Had to, couldn't leave him to turn. One of the adults shot him after he'd been bitten. Before he turned. Quick, merciful. His body is buried outside the building perimeter. Small marker. Chris, age 9. Lost family. Lost everything. Lost his life trying to help the group survive. I had to tell the other kids. That was the worst part. Watching their faces as they understood. Watching them process that someone else they cared about was gone. Trevor didn't cry. Didn't react visibly. Just nodded and walked away. I found him later on the roof, staring at nothing. "This is my fault," he said. "It's not. I should have watched him better. Should have kept him close. Trevor, you can't protect everyone." "Then what's the fucking point?" His voice broke. "What's the point of surviving if everyone we love dies anyway?" I didn't have an answer. The funeral was that evening. People said words. Most didn't know Chris well enough to say anything personal. He was just another lost kid in a world full of lost kids. Emily spoke. Chris liked dinosaurs and macaroni and cheese, and he was scared of the dark, so I used to let him sleep next to me with my flashlight. He was my friend. He tried really hard to be brave, even when he was scared. I'm going to miss him. Then we buried him and went back inside, and life continued, because that's all you can do. The encrypted radio picked up something strange that night. We monitor multiple frequencies. Most are static. Some have automated emergency broadcasts still running from before. But on one frequency, we'd been hearing occasional chatter, always encrypted, always short bursts. Our communications guy, someone from the apartment group named Paul, managed to decrypt some of it. What we heard changed everything. Sector 7 clear. 14 collected. Moving to processing. Sector 4 has resistance. Deploying herd to suppress. Collection quota for this week met. Returning to base. They're collecting people. The group with the trained infected. They're not just surviving. They're taking people. For what purpose, we don't know. Jack called another emergency council meeting. "We need to decide our long-term strategy," he said. "We can't stay hidden forever. This group, whoever they are, they're organized and they're expanding. Eventually they'll find us if they haven't already. We either make contact and try to negotiate, or we prepare for conflict, or we run further." The debate was fierce. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to run to rural areas and start completely over. I stayed quiet through most of it. Just listening, processing. Finally, Jack asked me directly, "Aaron, you've seen them up close. You've been out there more than most. What do you think we should do?" Everyone looked at me. 45 people waiting for an answer I didn't have. "I think we're asking the wrong question," I said slowly. "We keep talking about surviving, about making it through to some undefined future point where things get better. But things aren't going to get better. This is the world now. Infected everywhere. Resources finite. Organized groups competing for whatever's left. We can run and hide and ration and hope. Or we can accept that survival isn't enough anymore. We need to figure out how to live in this world. How to build something that lasts. How to be human even when everything pushes us to be animals." Silence. Then Margaret spoke. "What does that mean practically?" "It means we stop reacting and start planning. It means we scout more aggressively. Learn about this other group. Figure out who they are and what they want. Maybe they're monsters. Maybe they're just desperate people like us. We don't know. But we need to know before we decide how to deal with them. And it means we think bigger than just this building. We're 45 people now. That's enough to actually do something, build something, make a difference. Like what? Claire asked. I don't know yet. But sitting here rationing food until we starve, isn't it? More debate, more discussion, more fear and anger and hope all mixed together. Finally, a decision. Send another recon mission. Bigger this time. 6 people. Longer timeline. Goal is to make contact with the other group. Not to fight, not to negotiate yet. Just to understand who they are. Volunteers requested. I raised my hand. So did Marcus. 4 others joined us. We leave tomorrow. Day 64. I'm writing this tonight because tomorrow might be the last time I leave this building alive. Because I need to document what we're doing and why. I checked on Trevor and the remaining kids before writing this. 6 of them now, instead of 7. Younger ones already asleep. Trevor awake and sitting with Riley. You're leaving again, Riley said. Statement, not question. Yeah. To find the people who might attack us? To understand them. Big difference. Trevor looked at me with old eyes and a young face. You think you can reason with them? You think they're going to care that we're just trying to survive? I think I have to try. Why? Because giving up on talking to people is giving up on being human. And if we're not human anymore, then what's the point of surviving? He didn't have a response to that. I left them there and came here to write. It's 0200 now. Mission brief is at 0600. We leave at 0800. This might be my last entry. If it is, whoever finds this needs to know. The kids at this location, Trevor, Emily, Zoe, Marcus, Brandon, Riley, they matter. They're worth protecting, worth saving, worth building a future for. Jack and the community here are trying to do the right thing, even when the right thing isn't clear. The world ended, but humans didn't. We're still here, still trying, still hoping. That has to count for something. Day 63 complete. Tomorrow we make contact with the unknown. Tomorrow we learn if there's any humanity left in this world beyond our small group. Tomorrow we find out if survival is enough or if we need to be more than survivors. I'm scared, but I'm ready. Whatever happens next, we face it together. That's all I've got. That's all any of us have. And maybe that's enough. Thanks for watching, guys. I will be back with another story.